feeling overwhelmed by impossible odds in your own life? What if I told you that a biblical story holds the key to unlocking unimaginable strength? Join us as we uncover the extraordinary journey of Gideon, a man who felt overwhelmed, who, against all logic, led a small, unconventional army to a monumental triumph. How God used him to do something incredible. This isn't just history. It's a profound lesson in how unwavering faith can manifest immense power, even when everything seems stacked against you. For 7 long years, the people of Israel lived in fear. Every time they planted their crops, a huge, powerful army called the Midianites would sweep in like a swarm of locusts. They would ride in on their camels, trampling the fields, stealing all the food, and taking the livestock. The Israelites were left with nothing. They were so terrified that they hid in caves and mountain strongholds, just trying to survive. They were starving, hopeless, and had forgotten the one who could save them. Finally, in their desperation, they cried out to God for help, and God heard them. He sent an angel to a man named Gideon. But Gideon wasn't a mighty warrior or a king. When the angel found him, Gideon was hiding in a winepress, secretly threshing wheat so the Midianites wouldn't see him and steal it. He was trying to be invisible. The angel appeared and said, "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." Gideon must have looked around, confused. "Mighty warrior." "Me," he replied. "Pardon me, my Lord. But if the Lord is with us, why has all this happened? Where are all his wonders that our ancestors told us about? The Lord has abandoned us." Gideon was full of doubt and fear. He felt weak and forgotten. But the Lord looked at him and said something that would change everything. "Go in the strength you have and save Israel out of Midian's hand. Am I not sending you?" Gideon couldn't believe it. "But Lord," he argued, "how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest in our tribe, and I am the least in my family." He saw himself as small and insignificant, the last person anyone would choose to be a hero. But God doesn't see us the way we see our potential. To prove his power to the doubtful Gideon, God gave him a sign. Gideon prepared an offering of meat and bread. He placed it on a rock, and the angel of the Lord touched it with his staff. Instantly, fire shot up from the rock and consumed the offering. The angel then vanished. In that moment, Gideon knew he was truly in the presence of God. He built an altar there and called it, "The Lord is Peace." God's first command for Gideon wasn't to fight the Midianites, but to tear down the altars his own people had built to false gods. He was afraid of his family and the townspeople, so he decided to do this under the cover of darkness. That very night, Gideon took 10 of his servants and bravely tore down the altar to Baal and the Asherah pole beside it. The next morning, when the people saw that their altar to Baal had been destroyed, they were furious. But Gideon's father defended him, and this act showed that Gideon was now fully committed to following God alone. Soon, the Midianites and their allies gathered again, ready to raid the land. This time, the Spirit of the Lord came upon Gideon. He blew a trumpet, and his own clan, the Abiezrites, gathered to follow him. He sent messengers throughout the northern tribes of Israel, and a massive army of 32,000 men assembled, ready to fight for their freedom. 32,000. That sounds like a pretty good army, right? But God had a different plan. He told Gideon, "You have too many men. I cannot deliver Midian into their hands, or Israel would boast against me. My own strength has saved me." God wanted to make it absolutely clear that this victory would be his. So, he gave Gideon a surprising instruction. Announce to the people, "Anyone who trembles with fear may turn back and leave Mount Gilead." Gideon made the announcement, and he watched in disbelief as 22,000 men walked away. 2/3 of his army was gone, just like that. He was left with only 10,000. Gideon looked at his remaining soldiers. 10,000 against the Midianite horde that was as thick as locusts. The odds were already staggering. But God said to him, "There are still too many men. Too many. How could 10,000 be too many?" But Gideon trusted. God told him to take the men down to the water to drink. He said, "Separate those who lap the water with their tongues, as a dog laps from those who kneel down to drink." Most of the men knelt down, cupping the water in their hands to drink. But a small group, just 300 men, bent down and lapped the water directly from the stream, staying alert and ready. Then the Lord said to Gideon, with the 300 men that lapped, "I will save you and give the Midianites into your hands. Let all the others go home." And so Gideon's army was reduced from 32,000 men to just 300. A tiny force against a massive, battle-hardened enemy. From a human perspective, it was an impossible, ridiculous situation. But this was God's plan all along. He was setting the stage for a miracle that no one could deny. It wasn't about the size of the army, but the size of their God. That night, God knew Gideon was still nervous. So he told him to sneak down to the Midianite camp with his servant, Purah, to eavesdrop. As they crept near the edge of the sprawling camp, they heard 2 Midianite soldiers talking. One was telling the other about a dream he had. "I had a dream," the soldier said. "A round loaf of barley bread came tumbling into the Midianite camp. It struck a tent with such force that the tent overturned and collapsed." His friend replied, "This can be nothing other than the sword of Gideon, the Israelite. God has given the Midianites and the whole camp into his hands. When Gideon heard this, his heart was filled with courage. He bowed down and worshipped God right there. He now knew for certain that God was with him and that victory was assured. He raced back to his 300 men and shouted, "Get up! The Lord has given the Midianite camp into your hands. Now for the battle plan." And it was a strange one. Did God tell them to sharpen their swords, to practice their archery? No. He told Gideon to divide his 300 men into 3 groups. He gave each man a trumpet, an empty clay jar, and a torch to put inside the jar, an army of musicians and potholders. This was not a normal military strategy. But Gideon and his men didn't question it. Their trust was no longer in their own strength or weapons, but in God's power and his unconventional plan. Under the cover of darkness, Gideon's 3 tiny companies surrounded the vast Midianite camp. On Gideon's signal, all 300 men did the same thing at once. They smashed their clay jars, revealing the blazing torches inside. They blew their trumpets with all their might, and they shouted at the top of their lungs, "A sword for the Lord and for Gideon." Imagine the scene. The Midianite army was asleep. Suddenly, they were jolted awake by a deafening crash, the blare of hundreds of trumpets, and blinding light appearing all around them from every direction. In their sleepy, terrified confusion, they thought they were surrounded by a massive, powerful army. Panic erupted throughout the camp. They started shouting and running in all directions. In the chaos and darkness, the Midianite soldiers couldn't tell friend from foe. They began fighting each other, turning their swords against their own comrades. The entire army fled in terror, and Gideon's tiny force pursued them, securing a complete and total victory. Israel was saved, and everyone knew it wasn't because of a great army or a brilliant general. It was because of God. He used a scared man hiding in a wine press and an army of 300 armed with trumpets and torches to defeat an enemy that was too numerous to count. The story of Gideon is a powerful reminder for all of us. When we feel weak, when we feel small, when the challenges in front of us seem impossible, that is often when God is ready to show his greatest strength in our lives. Like Gideon, we just need to trust him and obey, even when his plan doesn't make sense to us. For as God's word says, his strength is made perfect in our weakness. What Midianite army are you facing today? Remember Gideon, and remember that with God on your side, nothing is impossible. Thank you so much for watching with us today. If this story encouraged you, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more animated Bible stories that bring God's Word to life. We'd love to have you join our community. See you next time.